Okay, welcome back to the show. One of our hot topics today is the traffic, and that's because congestion in Dubai is apparently up by 50%. Now, that's according to new figures comparing 2023 to 2022. They come from the Traffic Information Service, INRIX, and it all comes down to the amount of time you spend or waste sitting in traffic. In Dubai, it was 33 hours last year, and that is against 22 hours in the previous year. So just imagine you didn't have to drive to Abu Dhabi anymore because there was a cheap and speedy service that took you over the sea. Well, that is what my next guest is looking to introduce into the UAE, because a US-based company, REGENT Craft, want to bring their all-electric passenger-carrying sea gliders to the region. Now, earlier I caught up with Billy Thalheimer. He's the co-founder and CEO of REGENT Craft, and he explained a little bit more about exactly what they're developing.
A sea glider is a new mode of transportation, really the first new mode since sort of the helicopter, right? So it is a fundamentally new way of moving people around coastal communities through waterways. Sea gliders themselves are hydrofoiling wing and ground effect vehicles, which is a lot of technical jargon. So really simply, they are battery-powered, zero-emission hybrids of boats and planes. So sea gliders provide dock-to-dock over-water transportation. You board them just like a ferry, and then you fly in between coastal destinations on a cushion of air, just like a bird flies over the water, all while making zero emissions.
Are they different to seaplanes?
That's a great question. So sea gliders are different than seaplanes. When you think about a seaplane, there's sort of two ways they can operate, right? They're either on their floats where they're very slow, they're uncomfortable bouncing up and down on the waves, or they're flying at altitude, which takes a lot of energy and a lot of power to do. So sea gliders are different because we have three modes of operation. So you board it floating like a seaplane, but we're a little more stable at the dock. And then as soon as we leave the dock and we're going through marinas and harbors, we rise up on hydrofoils. So we have this intermediate mode of transportation on hydrofoils. If your listeners might be familiar with hydrofoil surfboards or the sailing racing boats, like in the Americas Cup and in Sail GP. So those hydrofoils are underwater wings that basically lift the sea gliders out of the water, giving us very high wave tolerance and comfort and safety. And then once we sort of leave the marina or the harbor and we get to the open water where the boat traffic is less, then we take off onto our wings. And when we do, we fly automatically within a wingspan of the water at all times. So that's about 10 meters or so altitude off the water. So actually at a lower altitude than sailboat masts, at a lower altitude than cruise ships. And we're gliding on that cushion of air, which is very efficient. So we would have twice the range of any electric aircraft, any electric seaplane on our battery-powered system. We basically get the maneuverability and the convenience of being a boat, being a hydrofoil boat in the waterways, and then we get the speed and efficiency of being a flying machine in the open waterways.
I have to say, they do sound very cool and very futuristic. What are the other benefits? Obviously, you've mentioned that they're quiet, that they can run for a long time on electricity. Do they have decent range?
Absolutely. You know, when I think about the benefits of sea gliders, to us, it really comes down to the three C's, right? So there's the cost. These are affordable because they are 100% battery powered. They have very few moving parts, very low maintenance. And so it's actually half the cost of airplane travel. It's similar to ferry travel. For example, you know, you think about the Dubai Abu Dhabi route. I've driven that many times. You're looking at an hour and a half with no traffic. We can lower that trip to 30 minutes and it only costs about 130 dirhams. So very affordable transportation. The second C, convenience. So this is coming to docks. You don't need to travel all the way out to the airport. You don't need to go through security lines. You just hop on like a ferry or a train. And the final C is comfort. So very comfortable on these wave-tolerant hydrofoils, flying on that cushion of air, sort of like you see birds gliding effortlessly in the ground effect. And because we are riding on that cushion of air so low to the water, that gives us our long range. So to answer your question, 300-kilometer range at a speed of 300 kilometers an hour. So, you know, sea gliders provide really just game-changing benefits in terms of cost, convenience, and comfort.
Okay, I am sold. How soon can we jump on one of these things? How soon could we see them here in Abu Dhabi and Dubai?
REGENT is working as quickly, but also as safely as possible to bring these sea gliders to market. Right now, the company is working on our full-scale prototype. So we expect this to have humans on board by the end of this year, be flying humans by early next year. So that'll be a really critical and exciting proof point for our full-scale, almost 7,000 kilogram vehicle to be up in the air with people on board. In terms of entry to service of these vehicles globally, we're looking for mid-decade. So, expect to be delivering our first sea gliders to customers, and we have customers all around the world in sort of that 2026, 27. We started working with Abu Dhabi Investment Office and with the Department of Municipalities and Transportation to start working on sea glider services in and around UAE. We actually signed an MOU with Aramex, which is going to be really exciting from the cargo perspective. So sea gliders not only carry people and passengers, but can also carry commercial cargo. And we are actually very excited to announce some new operators, some very large sea glider orders that we'll probably be announcing in a few months. So very much expect to see sea gliders around the coastlines of UAE later this decade.
Oh, that is very exciting indeed. Am I right in understanding that you also plan to build the sea gliders in this country?
That is absolutely correct. When we think about our global order book, we have over 600 sea gliders sold around the world. The next question for us is how can we produce enough of them to satisfy this massive customer demand that we see all over the world? So we're getting started here in North America with our first manufacturing facility. And what we're working with Audio, with Abu Dhabi Investment Office right now is on a localization plan and a local manufacturing facility, which would service not only Middle East, but also Europe, also Asia and Pacific, all the way down to New Zealand.
And then I suppose there's that big last sort of overarching question with regards to safety. I mean, if you're only 10 meters above the sea surface, obviously it's different to a plane, but nevertheless, you wouldn't really want to crash at 10 meters.
Certainly not. And for REGENT and building our sea gliders, safety is the absolute top priority. It paces all of our engineering development and manufacturing and testing programs. Importantly for safety, these are regulated vehicles. Now, sea gliders, because they are dock to dock over water only, and because they're always staying in the maritime environment, not going into airspace, not going to airports, they're actually under the jurisdiction of maritime authorities. So specifically in the UAE, the regulator will be the Federal Maritime Authority under the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. So we'll be working with them to certify sea gliders safely as vessels. We're also working with international regulators, specifically Lloyd's Register, on a vehicle level certification that provides international extensibility. So we are confirming the safe operations of our sea gliders with third-party regulators, both in country and internationally, and we'll build and test them to the highest safety standards.
Looking ahead, maybe 5, maybe 10 years into the future, what would you expect? What would you hope to see from REGENT's perspective in the UAE?
That local factory, we've talked to many dozens of sea gliders and the high double digit sea gliders coming out of that local manufacturing facility. But from really the vision, when I fly to UAE, I would want to fly into a local REGENT headquarters. I would want to travel throughout the coastline on sea gliders. I don't need to drive back and forth between Dubai and Abu Dhabi anymore, but I can be taking these zero emission, convenient, comfortable vehicles up and down the coastline. And moreover, I would expect and hope to see them become an integrated part of society, of the community. The majority of UAE lives in coastal communities. And so I would expect to see sea gliders as part of the transportation fabric. When kids are in school, they're going to learn about boats and trains and planes and cars and sea gliders as a mode. And it's just going to be totally fundamentally changing to how people move around the UAE and indeed around coastlines all over the world.
Billy Thalheimer there, co-founder and CEO of REGENT Craft, bringing me up to date with how they are planning to develop and bring sea gliders to the coastline of the UAE.